Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Bring It On. Now let's speak to Heinrichs and this group of nobles, and then we'll get the measure of the two rogue traders in attendance. A group of aristocrats stands apart from the governor's circle. Their whispering carries a tinge of displeasure. The clear leader of this gathering is a gaunt, bilious-faced man dressed in sourback colors. This must be Macarius himself, head of the house. He offers you a ceremonious bow. My congratulations, your lordship. May the Omnissiah grant you understanding. The woman with whom he is conversing, the one dressed in a robe with gear-shaped adornments, is Toriana Gaprak. It is difficult to read her face due to it being covered in numerous augmentations. Observe the guests. Ferdinand Gaprak looks rather anxious. Macarius Sourback, dressed surprisingly plainly and austerely for an aristocrat of such a high rank, is frowning suspiciously. He came to the reception with a companion, a woman of dazzling beauty wearing a gilded augment necklace around her throat. His wife, probably. Heinrichs, who joined the group unnoticed, mostly keeps silent, listening intently to their every word. I'll lean toward Heinrichs. Interesting conversation? It's been very illuminating, giving me plenty of food for thought. Heinrichs' response is barely audible. Heinrichs looks away, tracking the guests' movements around the hall. What can you tell me about my guests? Well, Macarius Sourback is all but throwing darts at your portrait. He is more astute at choosing women than enemies. He is trying to entice Gaprak to his side, but she is too frightened after the fiasco in Kiava Gamma. Even in leisure, you never cease to be of help. I appreciate it. That is why they call it the unsleeping eye of the Inquisition. Even in sleep, I hear everything. Donald, before this gala concludes, there is something I'd like to tell you. Be careful today. I sense that a wave of darkness will soon hit our defensive lines. I hope that I will still get a chance to meet you there as an ally. How are you these days, Toriana? Like a forging hammer, Toriana's voice falls heavily on the ear. The corruption of Kiava Gamma was a great blow to my family. The contemptible Cubist Delphim betrayed our trust, desecrated the forged cathedrals, and took my esteemed cousin's life. On behalf of my family, I humbly beg you to forgive our negligence. I am ready to accept any punishment. Look closely at Toriana. There is something lurking beneath Toriana's repentant expression, a grudge. It would seem that she was personally offended by the nightmare into which Cubist Delphim plunged her domain, and she feels betrayed. Tell me more about your family. We Gapraks originate from the Calixus sector, from the cluster of planets known as the Lathe Worlds. We worked faithfully for the good of our masters there, the Adeptus Mechanicus, and through our service, we gained a spark of the Omnissiah's knowledge. Then fate tied us through the bonds of fealty to the venerable Von Valancius dynasty. We found ourselves in the Cronus Expanse. Generation after generation, we fulfilled our duty faultlessly, until Kiava Gamma destroyed and disgraced our name. Option 3. Do your part to heal the wounds inflicted on Kiava Gamma, and your house will be forgiven. Toriana raises her mechanical eyes to the ceiling. I swear on the Omnissiah's all-encompassing insight, who will make every effort to justify the cost of its resurrection. Macarius scoffs. It was only a year ago that none could doubt House Gaprak's usefulness. Yet here you are, Toriana, on your knees, justifying the cost. Macarius, I'm surprised you deigned to make an appearance here this evening. Macarius' face twists into an unpleasant smile, which makes the artificial skin on the left side all the more prominent. I am a servant of the Von Valancius dynasty. Had I not come, I would have committed an act of unacceptable insolence and damaged my family's honor. Macarius' wife offers you a charming smile, as if apologizing for her husband's vitriolic tone. Her large dark eyes are brimming with curiosity. What has so displeased you, Macarius? Macarius says with caution, I am your dynasty's loyal servant, but you have asked, and I will answer. Too long has the Cronus Expanse lived under the rule of rogue traders. The The privileges granted to them make people think that commoners too can dismiss the prohibitions of the Imperium. For the good of the sector, rogue traders must become paragons of the law, not exceptions to it. But do many warrant holders exhibit lawful conduct? No, they do not. Even you, your lordship, are the subject of the strangest of rumors. You have just recently inherited your protectorate. Conrad Voigtvir's people, for instance, claim that you had a hand in the esteemed Theodore's demise, accuse you of many other misdeeds. It doesn't matter whether or not their claims are true. The people hear them, believe them, and think that they may follow your example. Rogue traders are not renegades vested with authority. We're the long arm of the Imperium, and I shall prove it to you. I wouldn't dare accuse you of anything, your lordship. I am simply concerned. If you happen to lay my concerns to rest, House Sarabak will be praying for your well-being every day. I wish to know more about House Sarabak. Macarius puffs out his chest and says proudly, the Sarabak line was one of the first noble houses to arrive in the Cronus Expanse. For millennia, we have served the Golden Throne and kept the faith. Sarabak warriors have bled in 100 wars and at different times have ruled a great many colonies of the Von Valancius dynasty. I would like to become better acquainted with your wife. Macarius is visibly vexed by the shift in the conversation. His wife offers you a reserved smile. It is an honor to be in your company, your lordship. It is my pleasure. Macarius is lucky to have such a beautiful wife. Perhaps more so than you are to have him. You flatter me, your lordship. But I cannot say that it is not to my liking. Regina gives you a charming smile. Meanwhile, Orion and Macarius are watching the conversation unfold, not quite believing their eyes and ears. Your countenance is familiar somehow. Could it be your resemblance to the image of Saint Meleta? I wouldn't dream of claiming to bear any resemblance to a great saint. I lack her virtue. Regina makes eyes at you before demurely lowering her gaze. The glint in Regina's eyes betrays her genuine interest in you. I hope this won't be the end of our acquaintance. You wouldn't mind if I wrote you from time to time, would you, your lordship? Yeah, I kind of like getting one over on Macarius. He's being awfully bold at this gathering. I promise to answer whenever I am not occupied with conquest and destruction of the enemies of humanity. Regina smiles, triumphant and flattered. I daren't count on such generous courtesy, your lordship. Macarius grips the hilt of his parade blade, as if trying to strangle it, and wheezes furiously. A high honor for House Sarabak. I see. Macarius bows his head without too much reverence. Leave silently. Your lordship. Alright. And the competition. Donald, it is my pleasure to congratulate you on claiming your inheritance. Now you carry upon your shoulders the great duty entrusted to us by the Emperor himself, to oversee this sector and remain vigilant as we strike down any and all corruption that dares to raise its head in your domain. You've been acquainted but a moment, and you're already getting to work on the new blood with your sermons. Then again, word is that you two are as thick as thieves already. Well then, Donald, you're our equal now. Is that it? Calcazar Winterscale examines you, as if you were a curio. Observe the rogue traders. Calcazar Winterscale is a broad-shouldered, athletic-looking man. He frequently flashes a bright smile no less dazzling than the blade of the power axe he carries. Every part of him, from the toes of his magnificent boots to the tips of his hair, radiates strength and the desire to live and win. His smile is crooked, as if ready to turn into a hostile snarl at any moment. But respect for using an axe. And next to him is an unmoving hulk of a man clad in armor. His low forehead and gloomy face bear signs of degradation. His bloodshot eyes are expressionless, like a pair of glass buttons. Incendia Chorda radiates cosmic cold. Her skin is unnaturally white, and a nervous tick is constantly tugging at the left side of her noble visage. Garbed in full dress uniform adorned with purity seals, she is the embodiment of a true imperial aristocrat. Haunting her side is a gaunt shadow of a priest in plain black robes. Hieronymus de la Rosso, whom you met on Footfall, gives you a respectful nod. Smell at Incendia. We rogue traders should stand against evil together, shoulder to shoulder, even if someone is trying to shoulder us out of the way. Remarkable. It would take my arch-militant longer to pick his teeth than it took you to conspire and unite against me. How do you do it? Winter Scale. I'm starting to get the impression that you do not like me. Am I supposed to? After you and Incendia made off with my Footfall, it's bad enough that a warp storm, has ravaged my protectorate and ruined my hunt. Now my dearest comrades are busy divvying up my territories behind my back. Caligos looks you in the eye with a challenge in his gaze. You abandoned Footfall to its fate, and Lady Incendia saved its people from certain death. Winterscale bares his teeth ominously, a wild spark playing in his eyes. You speak of salvation. You think that now Footfall is safe. While Footfall was in my charge, I graciously guarded its trade routes, but now their safety is no longer my concern. In accordance with my privileges, I hereby declare Furibundus and the neighboring systems to be a free hunting zone. Any item of cargo procured in it by a subject of mine will be considered a fair trophy, rather than the proceeds of piracy. How fares your protectorate? Caligos waves you off. Protectorate. More like the bleeding scraps of one. The warp storm tore it to shreds, but my servants will piece it back together. And if they don't, I'll chop off their heads and find myself more capable helpers. Something strikes you as strange. Caligos Winterscale wasn't always this nonchalant about his protectorate. He used to be known as a shrewd and business-minded, even concerned for his subjects, but it seems he has grown bored of ruling. I'm glad that the matter of Footfall is settled. Of course you are. I doubt you'd be glad if I came here with an army and reduced your capital to ruin. Winterscale laughs heartily. Incendia, your support is greatly appreciated. As is yours, Donald. I come bearing generous gifts for your protectorate. It is a sign of my gratitude to you for not being tempted by the words of Footfall's masters, and for not going against me. Rogue traders must unite against heresy and waywardness. I hope you will become my trusted ally, and not follow in Theodora's footsteps. Incendia's tick strikes again, contorting her face. You notice a peculiar wrongness about Incendia's movements. A barely perceptible fugue that makes her body try to repeat the movements it has just performed. Her chin jerks spasmodically when she turns her head, and the gestures of her fingers are slightly more chaotic and loose than they should be. Coupled with the pale skin and the tick, everything adds up to symptoms you recognize. It seems that Incendia was once subjected to cryostasis, and as she was coming out of it, some error occurred that damaged her nervous systems. The priest holds up his hands in a placating gesture. None are without fault, noble Incendia. What point is there in targeting someone for their turpitude, when true purity can never be found? How is Footfall these days? I'm setting that pirate den straight. Having sensed the approaching reckoning, a number of blasphemers revolted, and I had to remind them that all we have are blessings granted to us by the grace of the Emperor, Air being one of them. The empty modules will be given over to the St. Drusus mission once they are repressurized. Sorry, I lost my spot there. Under the esteemed Incendia's rule, Footfall is headed for purgation and prosperity, but its burden of depravity persists still, and it is a heavy one. Caligos' tone is merry and teasing. Why, I've heard that Footfall is now being patrolled by your punitive squads. Oh, pardon me. Confessional units, was it? and any accusation of lacking piety is enough to warrant an arrest. Prosperity takes such fascinating forms. Hieronymus, your appearance here is unexpected. The esteemed Hieronymus is my confessor. I am greatly obliged to him for agreeing to accompany me on this journey. Hieronymus bows respectfully. May the Emperor's light guide your way across the abyss of human wickedness. I saw Sister Argenta at your side during the ceremony and rejoiced, for this is a clear sign that the Von Valanci's dynasty honors the virtuous. I see that faith is more than just a word to you. Incendia's smile, racked by a tic, looks sinister. Faith is everything to me. In his name, I've eradicated corruption on 100 worlds, and will do so on 1,000 more. By his will, I hunt down pirates and desolate their vile nests. Let the Chorda name make any firebrand tremble, for sooner or later, I will cast them into the void. I believe you understand me. After all, your ascension was accompanied by the sounds of holy hymns all over the planet. With this song of righteousness on their lips, your subjects walk toward a dark future filled with blood and trials. The funny thing is, people still call me the foul-tempered tyrant in all this. Caligos' amiable smile somehow resembles the bare teeth of a wild animal. I take it you are not overly fond of Theodora. Incendia lowers her eyes and says without animosity. She was of the same breed as Asp, her predecessor. She stops short, then continues in a lowered voice. Conceited, insolent, unaware of the Emperor's stern gaze set upon her. I do not doubt her wisdom and courage, but Theodora did not have a shred of humility or fear of his wrath. Asp. That must be Aspis. Aspis Chorda. You remember the name. From what you recall, she was a rogue trader too, and a renowned one at that. Well, I for one liked Theodora. The stories they told of her travels to nameless stars. And yes, there was no fear in her. Winterscale sighs pensively, and his lively expression grows a little grayer. Have you gone through cryostasis? What idiot named a rogue trader? Incendia's voice is as dark as the path of an apostate. It is a mark left by the kiss of a freezing nightmare. The ungodly Aspis, to whom I am cursed to be related, had me imprisoned in a cryovault, as she did with all our family. She's afraid that her transgressions would eventually tip the scales of our patience, and we would dethrone her. When St. Drusus missionaries discovered her secret repository, all of my kin had already died excruciating deaths due to equipment failures, and I was dying. We found the planet where that took place. But why was it being guarded? That's where our enforcers were ambushed, in one of the planet events. It was a miracle that they pulled me out of my slumber. For 3 years I had lain within the cryovault, paralyzed, blind, alone with the darkness, the cold, my hope for his mercy. 3 years of imprisonment in a frozen nightmare. Only the prayers of the blessed priest had kept me from losing my mind. When I beheld light again, I swore an oath to him. To pursue Aspis and other miscreants like her to my last breath. To castigate heretics and offenders of faith. Such is my path now. Who is Aspis Chorda to you? Caligos snorts. Oh, this is Incendia's favorite subject. She just loves talking about Aspis. The example of the contemptible Aspis is a warning to us all. Even among rogue traders, empowered by the Emperor himself, a seed of perversion can blossom. That's the first check we failed. Incendia's face twitches with the rhythm of artillery fire. That reprobate is my forebear and my curse. Aspis Chorda was a cruel, covetous, blaspheming monster. She fraternized with Xenos. She despised the faith. She robbed and slaughtered. She was drawn to dark secrets. One day, she boarded her ship and vanished into the depths of the Cronus Expanse. She was declared missing, but I know. The bloody day will come when we see Aspis Chorda's battle flagship once more. I thank you for this visit, Incendia. The Emperor's faithful must support each other. Incendia smiles, but her smile turns out a little crooked as a nervous tic shoots through her pale cheek. I swear on his name, if you start a liturgy right now, I'm going back to my ship. Caligos erupts into booming laughter, but the frustration in his voice does not escape your notice. What do you think of the celebration? I like it. Caligos looks around the hall curiously. One can instantly tell that we've been invited by a rogue trader, not some administratum bootlicker. We are conquerors of wild sectors, slayers of unknown beasts, executioners of Xenos empires. Caligos, you should take this opportunity to learn. This is what the palace of a true rogue trader looks like. Not some Xeno menagerie, a pirate's treasure hold, or, however difficult it may be for you to believe it, an orbital brothel. Well, enjoy the evening. I must take my leave. Oh, believe me, I intend to enjoy myself to the full, to justify so long a voyage, if nothing else. Keep the faith, Donald. The Emperor protects. It is my hope that the Von Valancius dynasty will serve the Imperium faithfully. The ceremony is not half bad, but the new Von Valancius can only be tested in action. The Emperor protects the Von Valancius dynasty, and sent Theodore a worthy successor. Wharton the Grey. How about a gladiator fight? I hope your lordship is pleased and not yet tired. If you wish to revive yourself a little, I suggest proceeding to the courtyard, if I may be so bold. Many guests have chosen to move into the fresh air. Will be eager to offer you their congratulations. What do you think of the reception? It is magnificent. I dare say it will live on as the premier high society event of the sector for many years. I am weary and wish to retire to my chambers. Please allow me to escort you, your lordship. Your chambers are ready, your lordship. Guards, in true. Quiet. Time to sleep. We need to talk. In private.
We have matters to discuss, Von Valancius.
The same man you saw among your guests is waiting for you in your chambers, with the look of someone who's supposed to be there. He casts a cold, assessing gaze over you from top to bottom. No one save Theodora has ever allowed themselves the liberty of looking at you in such a way. The woman behind Calcazar, clad in black armor, glares at you, her face set in predatory readiness for immediate violence, the hallmark of a professional bodyguard. Remind me, who are you?
Lord Inquisitor Xavier Calcazar, head of the Coronis Conclave. I'm authorized by the grace of the Emperor to watch over the Coronis expanse, root out heresies, and preempt the Xenos threat.
His hybrid face and glorious graying mane would better befit an aristocrat than a servant of the fearsome Inquisition. You've heard the name Xavier Calcazar, of course, but you know nothing about the accomplishments and victories of this man, or who is the de facto warden of the Expanse. I said or who, but anyway. Archives and Chronicles grow surprisingly quiet the moment the Lord Inquisitor becomes involved.
No need to search your memory. My war is waged on clandestine fronts, and any battle reports are always thoroughly filtered. Trust me, you need not know the manner of things I have to face and the measures I sometimes have to take. Such knowledge is dangerous to the mind.
Noticing your hesitation, Calcazar chuckles faintly. Will my servant live?
Probably. Unless he suffered from hidden ailments, he will soon come to without any major damage to his health. Either way, oblivion is a far safer option for him than the dangerous privilege of being a witness to this conversation.
He shrugs. The woman at Calcazar's back gives you a bloodthirsty smirk. Heinrichs, I thought we were friends. Our friends don't break into each other's chambers in the middle of the night with weapons, do they?
We used other means of travel to pay you this visit. I assure you, rogue trader, that all your locks are in order.
Heinrich's eyes bore into you, his expression impenetrable. If the Inquisition wishes to have a talk with me, I'm glad to be at its service.
A commendable openness to cooperation. It will be taken into account.
The Inquisitor's sharp gaze is fixed on a point directly between your eyes.
Master Van Kellox has spent enough time with you. He will vouch for your words. What stands out from your recent accomplishments is the suppression of a rebellion on Janus, the battle against the archenemy's minions on Kiava Gamma, and, of course, the unusual interest the Drakari have shown in you. Then that is what we will discuss.
After saying these words, he shoots you a searching look from under his brows, like a regicide player who just made the first move, is now watching for his opponent's reaction. This feels an awful lot like an interrogation. I don't know why I couldn't say that.
Does it? We're in your chambers, not a confessional cell. You're in perfectly good health, and none of the varied and fascinating instruments and procedures that expedite candor are being applied to you. I assure you, you would immediately know if our discussion turned into an interrogation.
What do you wish to know about the events on Janus?
Oh, I know it already. Even though you were quite effective at removing all evidence that could point to the blunder made by House von Valancius, it is saddening to realize that the rogue trader's connivance allowed a heretic who had been fostering a cult for years to come to power.
Theodora was the one who appointed Vistenza. What does it have to do with me?
As my colleagues like to say, innocence proves nothing. You have inherited not just Theodora's glory and wealth, but her mistakes as well.
Vistenza's misdeeds are a stain upon my dynasty's honor. I admit it.
Your humility is heartening. Rest assured, it will be noted during the investigation of your lamentable oversight.
How did you come to be so remarkably well informed?
Are you surprised? You thought the Inquisition was unaware of the circumstances of your deeds. How often do you find yourself thinking that there are things we shouldn't know about your life? It is my job to know everything, and I do it very well. Keep that in mind.
If you knew about what was happening on Janus, why didn't you intervene yourself?
I cannot satisfy your curiosity without disclosing information of the utmost secrecy. I will say only this. We had the situation under control. There is a tangled knot of perilous events in progress in the Coronis expanse. Plucking even one thread must be performed with great precision and caution, without any room for error. Because you do not want to know the price of such an error, or what forms it might take.
What questions could you have for me about Kiava Gamma?
Places touched by chaos must be purged with fire and condemned to oblivion. Kiava Gamma should have been bombed to dust and pronounced a forbidden world. However, you decided otherwise and restored the colony's operation. And you didn't even go to the trouble of hiding the traces of the neglect committed by your dynasty. After all, it was House von Valancius that gave Cubus Delphim so much freedom that he sank into seditious heresy. What was your rationale?
I made every effort and saw to it that every seed of heresy was exterminated. The word of Kiava Gamma is tainted no more. I can vouch for that.
I hope you are sufficiently thorough. If you are not, you will be called to account.
He pauses before saying gravely,
And the machine? You destroyed it. Why? So much invaluable data lost. In Master Van Kellox's dispatch, he reported that he made you well aware of how important that data was, and he clearly requested that you not interfere in the investigation.
Okay, well, I was thorough, like he requested here, so get bent, buddy. Calcazar falls silent. giving the impression that the discussion of this topic is concluded, but then in a delicate, almost casual tone asks. His face grim, Heinrich gives an almost imperceptible shrug, as if to say, I warned you. I'll not have anyone tell me which heretical abominations I may eradicate on my own planet, and which I may not.
A dangerous delusion. Upsetting as it may be for you, I will indeed tell you which heretical abominations you have the right to destroy, and which you are not to lay a finger on.
I mean, you can tell me whatever you want, buddy. I'm going to destroy what I want to destroy. The Lord Inquisitor's voice becomes even softer and more insinuating. The Jakari have shown an interest in me. Are you referring to my ruined capital?
Yes, yes. The enmity between you is a known fact. But there is another way to look at it. On Veabos 6, you met the Archon of a mighty cabal, whose presence there seems strange to begin with, and lived. You subsequently encountered a number of her closest henchmen. Yet, again, you survived. Your capital fell victim to a nefarious attack, but even this time, their daggers missed your heart.
This is pretty standard in Warhammer 40,000. If you have someone that's constantly surviving encounters with heresy and Xenos, they usually come under scrutiny of the Inquisition like this. A good example is the game Space Marine, where Captain Titus gets taken by the Inquisition at the end. Spoilers, by the way. So this is pretty part of the course.
Such remarkable luck. To be a personal enemy of such an influential Xenos. To have been attacked so many times and yet make it out alive. So remarkable that one has to wonder, am I watching a spectacle? Could all these thrilling massacres be an alibi of sorts? Meant to establish you once and for all as an enemy of the Xenos and never their ally or even their agent.
Xenos made more attempts on St. Drusus' life than mine. Does that make him a traitor too?
So you already think you're cut from the same cloth as St. Drusus, do you? Ambitious? I'll make note of it.
He lets out a chuckle. Of course, he's turning all of my responses against me. It's a well-written conversation. Have I answered all of your questions?
Far from it, my dear. The questions are manifold. How did you manage to survive the battle that claimed the life of Theodora, who was so much more experienced and skilled than you? Is it a coincidence that you and you alone then made it out of the trap on Rykad Minoris? How much truth is there in the rumors being spread by the heretic Kunrad Voitvia about you?
Who says Theodora is more experienced than me? I was a commissar before this.
The very existence of these questions would have made many of my colleagues doubt the quality of your character. But it won't in this case. Your transgressions are sufficient grounds to bring you before the Inquisition's judgment. And believe me when I say that if you fail to draw certain conclusions from my words, this is what will eventually happen. But for now, I am willing to show leniency, which is rather uncharacteristic of me. I hope you appreciate the generosity of this offer, as your predecessor once did.
We know that she did cooperate with him, because we read the letter that said so. Theodora cooperated with you.
And benefited greatly from it. The world's power is not without limit, and neither is the protection it provides. All those mysterious expeditions, dubious experiments, collections of xenotech oddities are dangerous pastimes. It takes more than the Emperor's permission to pursue them without consequences. One must also make sure I am not displeased by it.
I know that Theodora was concerned about the fate of the dynasty and certain restricting obligations. Was it perhaps due to your partnership with her? I cannot deny the possibility that Lady Theodora may have lamented losing some of the freedom she enjoyed prior to my arrival in the Expanse. Nor will I deny that our partnership began with me exerting a certain amount of influence. Calcazar gives you a sharp look. However, you are not Lady Theodora. Let us put the difficulties that encumbered our relationship to rest along with her. I do not recommend troubling yourself with the affairs of the past. They have no bearing on your present position. Theodora chose to forget about this particular matter. Follow her example, and your fate will be the better for it. Why such an interest in my person?
You haven't been in a position of power for long, and so one can forgive you for not noticing the troubling changes. The cult of the Final Dawn is spreading in the Coronis Expanse. Not the first or the last heresy that has afflicted this sector, but one that is surprisingly resilient. Mysterious convoys are sliding by, bound for systems in the heathen stars. Just your humdrum pirate trade, wouldn't you say? Then why are the pirates themselves clueless? The Xenos, who have caused trouble in the sector before, have expanded their activities in the last few decades, and there is a logic and method to their previously chaotic raids. Even 2 packs of space wolves, blessed space marines summoned in my name, did not cool their interest in the Expanse. A mighty explorative fleet, which has studied the Expanse for hundreds of years, has suddenly stopped responding to communication and sunk into a dispute over a tech heresy that was considered dead a couple of centuries ago. House Chorda has clamped down on insurgents, yet its acts of brutality breed troublemakers just as quickly as they're executed, and this bloody carousel has consumed the attention of the esteemed incendiar. Corligos Winterscale has abruptly lost all interest in his domain, and his only apparent concern now is hunting even more dangerous xenobeasts. And the third and final rogue trader has unexpectedly perished, stabbed in the back by her own Master of Whispers. The Expanse is swiftly losing its protectors right when communication with the Imperium is being disrupted by the raging warp. Basically, all the Expanse has left is me and you, if you follow my instructions.
Blackmail? To what end? I am a rogue trader, and this is a flagrant violation of my privileges.
And before what tribunal do you intend to challenge my authority?
He shakes his head.
If, for the security of these territories, I find it necessary to execute any individual and replace them with a puppet counterpart, turn their realm to ash, and put their servants to death, I have the right to do so. The threats I protect the Expanse against are extraordinary and justify the harshest means. Welcome to my world, where going too far simply doesn't exist.
Is Heinrich staying in my retinue, or are you taking him back?
Which would you prefer? And you, Heinrichs, do you wish to continue working at the Honorable Rogue Trader's side?
I will comply with any order, Lord Inquisitor. If you command me to remain in the company of the scion of the von Valancius dynasty, I won't be distressed.
What's your opinion of Heinrichs? Is he a useful assistant to have?
Without a doubt. Master Van Kellox has earned my complete trust by repeatedly demonstrating courage, loyalty, and cunning. His mathematical mind, not given to sentiment, can be of great use in an emergency. You, my dear Heinrichs, have made a far better agent than you would have a pilot of an Imperial Knight.
I want Heinrichs to continue to accompany me.
Then Master Van Kellox will remain in place. It puts me at ease to know that there is someone to watch over you.
Calcazar's last remark sounds ambiguous.
I consider it an honor to accompany you.
Heinrichs offers you an official bow. What kind of deal are we talking about?
I make no deals, and Emperor forbid that I give you orders. That would mean infringing on your privileges. I'm merely offering well-meaning recommendations and expecting that, when the Expanse finds itself in danger, you will break away from your own affairs to heed them.
That's funny. It sounds like he's mocking me here, because I brought up my privileges earlier.
I seem to remember that your exalted aristocrats presented you with many gifts. It would be rude of me not to follow suit.
Yeah, I didn't actually look at the log to see if Incendia gave us anything.
Please accept this gift as a sign of my favor. In an hour of need, give it to any faithful servant of the Emperor, and the Inquisition will come to your aid.
Calcazar removes a signet ring from his finger and hands it to you. You notice an intricate personal coat of arms on it.
The color indicates how close the bearer is to the Lord Inquisitor. White is beautiful, yet vulnerable. It stains as easily as one can lose the Inquisition's trust. Do all you can to preserve it.
Alright, so I'm hoping I can take option 3 after option 1. Let's not be so greedy. Alright, drop to one knee. Lord Inquisitor, it'd be the greatest honor to swear an oath of loyalty to you and to join the ranks of the Inquisition. The Lord Inquisitor raises one brow, considering your declaration. Your zeal is impressive, Donald. However, I cannot accept such an oath from you, at least, not now. You'll be more useful to the Inquisition in your current position as a member of my coterie. Nevertheless... Oh cool, so we got more loot that way anyway. The Inquisitor draws a broad blade from his belt. It is engraved with scripture along its length. He proffers the gilded grip to you. This is a gift, a sign that your fervor has not gone unnoticed. Should it remain undiminished, one day this blade will be melted down to make your inquisitorial rosette. As such is the tradition of our conclave. Yeah, so in order to become an Inquisitor, you join their coterie, part of their retinue, and once you prove yourself, after a certain point, you become an interrogator, which is what Heinrich's currently is. And then you become an Inquisitor after that. Typically when the Inquisitor that you're following dies, but you can be promoted before that happens too. As if in confirmation of the Lord Inquisitor's words, Heinrich brings his hand to his own rosette.
Here is where we part. My shuttle is waiting. It is time for me to return to my watch, for you to sleep, and for your servant to wake up. Until next we meet.
He glances at the Master of Ceremonies, who is beginning to stir.
Well, you will obviously want to discuss what just happened. But not now, I presume. Right now, it would be better for you to rest and think on the Lord Inquisitor's words in private. I bid you good night, rogue trader.
For the first time during the entire exchange, motion creeps into Heinrich's face. Looks like someone is expecting an unpleasant conversation. Got that right. So this character isn't too bothered by the Inquisition doing that.
The rise of the rogue trader heir restored a tenuous equilibrium to the Fon Valancius Protectorate. For a time, threats subsided, activity returned to trade routes, and reclaimed worlds began to heal. The new Lord Captain's subjects praised the God Emperor and their leader wholeheartedly. For none knew what fate might await them.
You spent the first few hours of your morning listening to the High Factotum's lengthy report on the latest trade exchanges, arrangements, disputes, and countless bureaucratic procedures. From outside the illuminated, tightly closed windows, you can hear the muffled sounds of Dargonis and its everyday life. Life that has been passing you by lately. You've been preoccupied with the affairs of your protectorate from dawn till dusk. Dementia barely contains a yawn. Once Generous Danrock is finished, she pulls out her data slate. Thank you for your report, High Factotum. Your work is highly appreciated, both by everyone here and the Adeptus Administratum. Your Lordship, we're almost done here. We just need to go over the final items on today's agenda that I'd like to report to you personally. Truly the God Emperor has blessed me with diligent subjects. Speak. Allow me to pass on gifts from your loyal subjects, the high nobility of Dargonis. It goes without saying that every living soul in your protectorate is blessed to serve your lordship faithfully and wholeheartedly. However, this humble gesture is meant as a token of deepest appreciation of your magnanimity toward their esteemed families. House Versarian made arrangements for the delivery of several tons of supplies for your future journeys. The house is also transferring a regiment of its finest into your personal charge. Each of these brave troopers has undergone rigorous Voidfarer training. I'll be humbled to lay down their life for you, Lord Captain. Clementia is trying to maintain a neutral expression, but you can see her face is beaming with pride. Please command them as you see fit. House Gaprak has sent shuttles carrying sacred technology and manufactured parts that can be used to replace old joints and connections within mechanisms. The machine spirits of these devices have been pacified. They are slumbering peacefully as they wait your decision on how to employ their capabilities. House Sauerback has arranged for several regiments of expertly trained servants of the Emperor to be transferred to your personal command. Each of them will also serve as an honor guard for the holy relics that are to find their rightful place in the hold of your personal void ship. She stops, seeing her data slate in surprise. Is something wrong? No, not at all, your lordship. The people in the cargo have indeed reached the port services. There's no reason to doubt the sincerity of the house's intentions. It's just such substantial and valuable gifts coming from Lord Sauerback. Clementia trails off. Yanrock lets out an amused chuckle. If I'm to venture a guess, your lordship, I believe the esteemed Chancellor was staggered by such an irregular display of generosity from a man who is rather known for voicing his doubts in rogue traders as a class. It would seem you have made quite an impression on Macarius, the old miser. Now, Lord Captain, news of particular import has come from the House's intelligence network. Lord Inquisitor Calcazar is rumored to be planning a visit to Footfall. A number of Imperial Navy ships were commandeered by Lord Calcazar, and they're also being scrambled to Footfall. Furthermore, we received reports claiming that secret messages were delivered to the capital worlds of Houses Chorda and Winterscale. It is possible that the Lord Inquisitor's call to arms may smother the conflict that is brewing between the two dynasties. We're seeing an increasing number of skirmishes between their ships in neutral systems. I do not doubt that her ladyship Chorda will attempt to sway the Lord Inquisitor to her side. Especially since his lordship Winterscale's luck seems to be running out. Riots have broken out on several of his worlds, and yet he has shown no intention of quelling them. Instead, the rogue trader inflicted brutal punishment upon one of his oldest colonies, Vesuvia Secundus, based on allegations of seditious sentiment. Oddly enough, our agents were unable to find any proof of sedition among the populace there. As soon as we have any updates, you'll be the first to know, your lordship. Clementia glances down at her data slate. Lastly, your pet Xenos, Erliet, I believe, is seeking a meeting with you. She had the audacity to defile the rogue trader's palace with her profane presence, and refuses to leave until she has spoken with you. I never presumed to be able to read the emotions of Xenos, but the Eldari appeared perturbed. I believe she mentioned a void ship of some sort. It may be best if she told you everything directly. I thought they were talking about the Xenos that Jai got me as a present. And with that, please allow me and Master Danrock to take our leave. The Chancellor and the High Factotum offer you their bows. Perhaps that last request will serve as a welcome distraction. Indeed, your lordship's stay on Dargonis has been rather long. However, your protectorate is now enjoying a period of relative stability that, for the time being, no longer demands your lordship's personal involvement in its affairs. Glory to the rogue trader. Alright, that was a lot of reading. But I'm going to call it here, and next time we'll re-explore the palace and go speak to a couple of our companions. But first, let's check out our new equipment. So we got the Interrogator's Dagger. On a successful hit with this weapon, the target must pass a willpower resistance test with a penalty, or immediately be moved 4 cells away, provoking attacks of opportunity. We got the White Signet of the Inquisition. The wearer gains plus 15 persuasion and the Inquisitor's command ability that can be used once per combat. Inquisitor's command grants plus 20 momentum. Burning, bleeding, and toxin effects are removed from all allies in a 5-cell radius. All allies in a 5-cell radius gain temporary wounds. Alright, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna call it here, and next time, I'm a little hesitant to put this ring on. Because it's possible if I come across Calcazar again, he could use it to torture me. We don't know what the inner workings of this ring actually is. I'm a little nervous about that, but it's really good, so we'll keep it on for now. Alright, I'm going to call it here. Next time we'll explore the palace, talk to companions, and possibly set out for Footfall, because something's brewing there. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.